Uh-oh, my spider sense is tingling. Oh wait, no, that's just my phone ringing. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we are here to talk Spider-Man power sets as we highlight some of the lesser known powers on that long multiversal list. Let's get counting. Number 10. Spidey Tracking. Cindy Moon has a pretty intense connection with Peter Parker. Cindy is a superhero we know as Silk, who happens to be a spider-themed hero herself, who got her powers from a radioactive spider bite as well. The same spider, in fact, as the one who gave Spider-Man his powers. Because of this, they have an unspoken connection which allows Cindy to be able to track Peter to the point that he could be almost anywhere in the multiverse and she'd be able to find him. Granted, this power really only works with the two heroes because they're so closely connected to one another. Still, I didn't even know that was a power that Silk had. I learned that too when I was writing this list. So yay. Number 9. Perfect Balance. If you think you know what great balance is, you probably don't. At least not at the same level of great balance for someone as agile as Spider-Man. For Spider-Man, his ability to balance is insane. This is because Spider-Man has an enhanced equilibrium, and what's even more crazy is in the alternate reality of the MC2 line known as Earth 982, Peter is actually not alone. In fact, in that reality, he's even surpassed by another spider-themed hero, his daughter, Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl, who later becomes known as Spider-Woman. May's equilibrium is even better than her dad's in this universe, meaning that she is more agile and has an even better sense of balance. Which is pretty crazy because Peter can already balance on like pretty much anything on just like the tip of a finger or a toe and do so in almost any position. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more unknown or more obscure spider powers, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. There's lots out there. There's lots of weird, cool Spider-Man powers. Number 8. Radiation Resistance. It turns out that Spider-Man, having been bit by a radioactive spider, actually gained a semi-immunity to radiation poisoning. Radiation, of course, can still hurt Spider-Man, but it takes a lot of it to do any significant damage to him. In other words, if you've ever played Fallout and taken some Rad X before heading into a super irradiated area, that's kinda like what we're talking about here. Instead of radiation killing Spider-Man, it usually just leaves him feeling weak. Of course, like anything, if he is exposed to too much radiation, it can do damage and even potentially kill him. So he's not completely immune to it, just not as sensitive as many standard humans are. We're very sensitive to radiation, so take that Rad X and I don't know, get bit by a radioactive spider, I guess, if you want some protection from it. Or just, you know, avoid it. That's a good way to live life. Avoid radiation. Number 7. Spider Whisperer. One version of Spider-Man can even communicate with spiders, in a way. And okay, maybe not a Spider-Man specifically. For this point, we're focusing on Kane Parker, clone of Peter Parker, initially known for his brooding, violent and villainous ways, and long dramatic hair. Now, however, Kane is a hero in the comics who still is kinda broody, but not as broody as he was originally. During his time as Scarlet Spider, he made an appearance in the 2014 New Warriors series. Here, in issue number 3, we get to see that Kane has a unique spider-based power. That is, he can communicate with spiders. Now, while he can't directly command them to do his bidding, Kane's power does give him a sort of empathic connection to the spiders around him. Still, pretty neat, and honestly seems like a power that should be a thing for all spider folks, even though it is a surprisingly rare one in the realm of the Spider-Man multiverse. Like, I'm surprised that not every spider person can communicate with spiders. Just seems logical, and yet. Number 6. Organic Webbing. Oddly enough, this one might be a power that you already thought you knew about, but in most cases, it's actually not a thing. A lot of people think it's a thing when it's not, and then sometimes it weirdly is. I hope that makes sense. Spider-Man's web shooters are actually an invention that Peter Parker, or usually any other Spider Totem of the Week, invented for their own use. Some fans think that this webbing is a part of Spider-Man's power set, but it's standardly a part of his equipment kit. However, this isn't always the case, and there have been a few times in the comics where the webbing for our hero has actually been organic, literally coming out from his own wrists, which is really weird and kinda icky, and not really a thing that we needed, but you know, we got it anyways. Silk is another spider-themed hero which has also had this power set of organic webbing, although in a bit of a cooler vein, at least in my opinion, and in terms of her character design. She also uses her webbing to create her suits at times when she has to jump into action unexpectedly. This gives Silk not only a pretty unique power, but also an unique look too. Number 5. Wicked Smart. I just like saying wicked smart. Or just wicked as an adverb really. Wicked is a cool adverb. I really love adverbs. Of course, as I said earlier, the reason why people sometimes make the assumption that Peter's webs are always organic when they are only sporadically organic is because they forget just how smart he is. Yes, Peter is sweet, kind, and sometimes teeters on the edge of falling completely apart, but there is more to him than all of that. He doesn't only have a good heart, but he also has a great brain. Hence how he was able to create his own web shooters to begin with, and also hence his love of academics and science. Peter isn't just your average smarty either in the Marvel Universe, no siree. He has been considered one of the great intellectual minds, rubbing elbows with the likes of Reed Richards, Iron Man, Black Panther, and Bruce Banner. Number 4. Venom Blast. Venom Blast is an iconic power that fans of Spider-Man might not be familiar with, but fans of Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman likely will be. Venom Blasts don't actually involve venom either, so the name for this power is kind of a misnomer. However, that didn't stop Spider-Woman from the 1970s cartoon shouting out the name of this power every time she used it. Venom Blast! It's like the louder you shout it, the more powerful it is. The Venom Blast power is actually electrical in nature. Jessica has the ability to produce excess bioelectricity which she can then channel into a blast, allowing her to shock, stun, or even kill her opponents. In fact, this is also a power that Jess has had to practice with and hone over the years so she can avoid killing people with it because it is just that powerful. I feel like that's actually a lot of Jessica Drew's powers. She's like, I have to hone this because it's just too crazy. Practice is important, especially if you have superpowers. Number 3. Magic. At least for a time in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, Peter had this one. For a short time, but it happened. He actually was given the Eye of Agamotto by Doctor Strange for a time and ended up possessing temporarily all the powers of the Sorcerer Supreme. In the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, Peter also kind of trains with Doctor Strange, or at least hangs out with him, and he gets some immunity to magic from his time spent with the famed Sorcerer. Granted, the magic that Peter has in this series is temporary, but it should also be noted that Spider-Man's origin was actually tweaked in the decade leading up to the Spider-Verse event in the comics, making him actually more mystical just as a character in the main continuity of 616. We learned that Spider-Man's origins weren't only based in the realm of science, but that the bite that he suffered from that radioactive spider was also somewhat fated, and was considered a gift from the spider, or more specifically the Other, which is kind of the spider, the great spider being that Spider-Man is attached to, turning Spider-Man into one of many spider totems throughout the Marvel Universe. Totems are basically figures throughout the Marvel Universe who are connected in a supernatural way to the spirit of an animal. In Spider Totem's case, it's spiders. Number 2. Venom Punch. Okay, so maybe you know about Jessica Drew's Venom Blast, but did you know that Spider-Man is also capable of emitting bioelectricity powers himself? Miles Morales' Spider-Man also possesses the power to channel his excess bioelectricity into blasts and shocking beams of concussive energy. But he also has another unique power he can pull off using his extra stores of bioelectricity. That would be his Venom Punch. Miles the Spider-Man can actually channel his bioelectricity into his punches, basically supercharging them. So not only are you feeling the pain of that super strong punch, because he's also got super strength, but also the pain from electric fists if you get hit by him. Honestly, Miles is probably one of the wildest power sets of all the Spider folks around. He's got lots of cool unique powers and is like crazy OP. Just another reason to love Miles Morales. Number 1. Pheromone Powers. Jessica Drew actually possesses these powers, although we might sometimes forget about them. They don't come up very often, and I think that's kind of because Jessica likes to use them sparingly. They are kind of weird powers. Also, it's hard to write powers like these without the issue of consent coming up. They do kind of inherently seem to lend better to villains than heroes because of that. However, one of my favorite moments when it comes to Jessica Drew's aka Spider-Woman's use of these powers is when she partnered with the Hulk and used them to help control and calm him, helping to combat his tendency to rage and hone that in. She proved that she could help take control of the Hulk by influencing him to make her a sandwich, which is pretty harmless and just kinda funny. Also, Jessica kinda shot herself in the foot with that one because the Hulk making a sandwich it's gonna be a bit of a mess of a sandwich. But he tried, he did his best. It was still a good sandwich, Hulk. I give it a thumbs up. Who was your favorite version of Spider-Man? Which spider-based power would you most like to have? Which spider-based power do you think is the most random? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host Amanda McKnight, saying thank you so much for watching and reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube.